I think we'll go ahead and get started on our Strengths Quest conversation today, if that's all right with everybody. Thank you all for coming. If we haven't met before, which I think we have, I'm Jeff Fennekamp, and my partner, kitty corner and down on my screen, is Brent Olinger. He and I are hosting these Strengths Conversations every week, every Wednesday at 3:30. We host one and we talk about a different talent. And today we're going to talk about empathy. And the people that get invited, Sharon, Elizabeth, and 387 others of you that have empathy on our campus all get invited to come. And
do the students get invited too?
Everybody. Yep.
Cool.
Everybody. And oftentimes we get some students that'll pop in and say, ooh, I'm so excited to learn more about this one. My guess is over the summer that might be more of a challenge, just based off of, if I were a student on my first week out of school, I might be at a lake today. So, you know, quite frankly, I'm thinking about going to a lake today. So, you know, we'll see what happens after this is over. So anyhow, I can share with you that empathy is not in my top 5. And so I'm excited for the 3 of you to chime in and share with us what empathy is to you, because I believe I have it, but I don't believe it's very high on my list.
And that's the same for me. So I think as you all think of empathy, like, how does that work in your personal lives and your work life? Like, how does empathy show up for you?
I think for me, it helps me connect and understand people. In my job, I talk to a lot of people, all from different walks of life. So
Elizabeth, what do you do at Augustana?
I'm the employment specialist.
Got it. That's what I thought. Thank you.
Yeah. So talking with so many different people, and in my previous position, I was a recruiter, and I dealt with a lot of more lower income. So it was interesting to see individuals that may not have a work history that is standard. And for me to be able to understand those experiences and how I can help them in the best way is really what I feel empathy is for me.
Do you feel, Elizabeth, to follow up like that you connect with them emotionally, or is it psychologically, like you kind of feel what they're doing, or do you feel their emotion?
Both. I usually understand their walks of life, so it helps me know why they're doing something. I can connect with, okay, well, I don't agree with that, but I understand why they did something. And then sometimes it's on an emotional level as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand, or I can feel someone's emotions. I know when they're angry, and that kind of almost transitions. Then I'm like, why am I feeling angry? So it just really depends.
Yeah, I'm interested, and I want to get to this part of the conversation about how do you protect yourself from absorbing people's emotions. But before we go there, Sharon Heap, can you share with us how you describe and how you see empathy in your life?
Exhausting. For me, it's very exhausting. I realized right after 9/11 that I didn't know what it was at the time until I started working at Augustana. But once I did this strength quest and I read the descriptions, I knew exactly when I realized I had that was during 9/11. And I watched all of the videos about all of the families, about all of the situations, and I personalized every single one. I felt every death. I felt every phone call. I felt it all. And it is so exhausting. And so I catch myself when I'm helping students, when I hear the stories of why they can't pay or why they're having struggles, or I feel all of that. And it's really hard for me. This particular strength is hard for me to separate from the emotion of the other person. Like your title in this email, I can feel your pain, I can feel your joy. That for me is very black and white. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
So how do you do that then is the follow-up question, right? When you know you're going to be giving bad news, or when you know you're going to be going into an emotion-full environment, whether it's joy or sadness, right? In any of the spectrum, how do you prepare yourself, or do you have to, or do you just like?
I do, and I have to almost role play in my head. If they respond this way, this is what I'm going to do. If they respond this way, this is what I'm going to do.
Okay.
You know, because I will give and I'll give a detailed example of, I figure out payment plans, right, for people that want payment plans, and I will figure out a payment plan, and your payment is $3,125 a month for 9 months, because they choose not to take loans or whatever, and that's what their payment is.
Yeah.
And I send that email, and I'm just like, okay. And sometimes I get back, whoa, and sometimes I get back, okay. And
Yeah.
so I plan for both responses, because if I don't, then I get sucked into their path.
Right.
So if I plan for what my response is, if you freak out, if you don't freak out. And I have to do that with the $200 payments too, because sometimes I send the email says your payment is $200 for 9 months, and I get I can't afford that. And I get the whole story, and pretty soon I'm sucked right into the family problem. So for me, it's constant. It's constant. Reminding myself, I am on the outside looking in. I am not the one going through this. It is not me. And it happens to me if something happens in the office. You know, when something happened to Sandy Kinzinger, oh my God, like it was personal. And I didn't really know her. I just knew Mitch, but you hear that and I feel it. I feel the pain. And so this one is hard for me.
You feel like it's gotten better as you've aged and you've become more, I don't want to say calloused, but more.
Oh, it has gotten better through this Strength Quest thing.
Yeah, giving it a title.
Honestly, because I am like, those are normal feelings.
Yeah. Well,
in 9/11, I didn't work here. I didn't know.
It's more than normal, Sharon, and I'll just make sure you understand this. It's a special gift because not everybody has that. And it makes you unique and special and uniquely capable in your position to predict and plan for what others are going to go through. And,
I don't know.
You know, not everybody has that ability. And for more than most strengths, when I talk to other clients that I have and I'm coaching through with empathy, they're like, this isn't, this is just the way it is. And I'm like, no, not everybody has it. Not everybody has it the same way.
Yeah, this one for me is, yeah.
Liz,
it's everyday work.
Liz, is this the same for you? I mean, I would imagine in HR, you're also on the side of some great joys, like, hey, I'm giving you a job, congratulations. And then disappointments from, I'm going to have to let you go, or the compensation isn't what you had hoped for, or, whatever. Do you have to prepare yourself in the same way?
I think yeah, I think that's why I stress so much about, lists and doing things, because I want to prepare for all outcomes of things. I think the hardest is obviously letting someone go and then them being very upset about it. I haven't encountered that here, but someone, crying and saying, I can't afford rent. What am I going to do? And absorbing all of that is hard, because that happens a lot for me. For instance, what happened recently in Minneapolis on Monday has hit me very, very hard. Even though I'm not personally connected to it, it's a social issue, and it's very hard to deal with.
Mm-hmm. And to see, is it expanded based off of population? Because what we're watching happen right now in Minneapolis, in that world, it's a community of pain, right? It's not just a singular, here's a person that's across, but it's a community of struggle. And when COVID happened and the fear that came during that first, second, and third week of March, it was a society of pain and fear and anguish. And is it compounded based off of numbers, or is it simpler based off of numbers because we're all in it together?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I know the answer to it. I think it's both, because sometimes it's on a more personal level. I tend to have higher levels of empathy with people I know. But if it's larger, I think it depends on more of the situation, versus the emotional part of it. In this case, with the Minneapolis, I think the public pain was just so much that it almost feels like this individual.
Yeah.
And because we're so familiar with this problem, it's very familiar. So that would probably be why I feel so strongly about it.
Sharon
So-
Gray, you've been, I'm sorry, Brent, I'm just going to ask Sharon Gray to jump in. She's been a little quiet in this whole thing.
Yeah,
Where are you at on this?
Uncharacteristically quiet. Usually Gabby. Yeah, so one thing I just thought, we're talking about it being a gift, or it being a kind of a unique thing. And I know what you mean, that we who have it kind of assume that everybody can do it. And not everybody can do it. But I realized that, and this might sound kind of odd, but I realized that I would prefer to be a parent of a child with Down syndrome, for a good example, than to be a parent of a child who is unable to feel and have emotion. To me, I'd much prefer the challenges of dealing with a child who's just gregarious and loving and light and affectionate, than one that can't do that. And thank goodness I've never had to test that myself. I've got 7 kids, and they don't have, they're pretty okay out there. But as just in thinking of the challenge that would present, that to me is such a valuable skill, such a valuable piece of being human, to feel and to relate emotionally with people, that if I had a child who couldn't do that, I think it would be extremely difficult,
Yeah. Sure.
The parenting part of that for me was hard, because I felt everything my kids felt. And separating myself from I am not in high school.
Yeah.
This is not
You've
happening to me.
been there, done that, right?
Yeah, don't want to do it again. And so the constant reminder that I am the support, this is not happening to me.
Yeah.
And then have them leave the room and look at Billy Joe like, oh my God, I can't, and just fall apart. And he's like, they'll be fine. And I'm like, I'm not going to be fine.
Well, and I got to be careful how I say this, because my significant other, whom I love very dearly, is here. But those of us who are in codependent and who belong to Al-Anon, empathy it's a double-edged sword. It is, there's 2 sides of that coin. There's the being empathetic, feeling for the people you love, and there's doing that to the exclusion of your own needs and your own, personal ability. And believe you me, I know what I'm talking about.
Well, actually,
and one of the things that y'all are great at is that, like, you probably are that person that your children, coworkers, friends go to, because you recognize their emotions and you're able to explain them. Not everyone's good at understanding their own emotions.
Oh, that's a good point.
When you have those interactions, like, do you ever find yourself talking people through what emotions they're experiencing? And like, does that feel fulfilling with empathy?
When they come out on the right side.
When they get
when they come out that they feel okay.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily right or wrong, like not what I think is right or wrong, but when you're done with the conversation and they're okay, like it helps.
But even if your child, your coworker, someone's going through a rough time, like I feel like that's just, it shows that you're so emotionally intelligent that you're able to walk through the next day going, you know, Susie had a rough day yesterday. Today might be rough too. I want to check in, and I'm doing what I can to support. I don't know it personally because I don't have empathy in one of my top strengths to have that feeling with me. But does that like help even if things don't end up okay at the end of one conversation?
It's not usually a conversation.
Yeah.
It's a situation.
Yeah.
So situations can last long time.
Yeah.
You know, it could be the grief of losing someone, which takes a long time.
Yes.
So a conversation, there may not be a end in it, but you tend to not let it, I tend to not let it go until you feel the end.
Mm-hmm.
Does that, like, it's really hard for me to let issues go until I know it's resolved or it's ended or it's no longer an issue.
There's a real strong urge to see to it that the other person feels okay. You know, that is super, super, super important.
I think it comes in handy. I myself don't like conflict. I don't think anybody likes conflict, but
I don't like conflict either.
Anything that I perceive as real, like on the television. So if it's news, I don't like to watch the news. I can watch, you know, scary movies, violent movies, because I know it's not real. But like, for instance, Big Brother. I love Big Brother. If there's conflict on there, I perceive it as real because it's a reality show, and I get up and I pace, and I don't like it. But with that, with conflict, I think it helps in dealing with your coworkers because you can look at these two people fighting and you can comfort one of them and say, well, this person might have actually meant this. And that really, really helps resolve those for other people because they don't always recognize that. They're like, oh, that's a really good point.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And that makes me think about another thing is that I find that I am able to entertain. I have friends who are very strongly conservative. I have friends who are very strongly liberal. And I am able to befriend both of them and you know, be empathetic to where they are. And my friends on either side will say, how in the heck can you befriend this person? And the other one will say, how in the heck could you befriend this person? And it's like, to
Switzerland.
me, what?
Switzerland.
Yeah, that's right. Switzerland. That'll be my new buzzword. Switzerland. That's how I do it.
When you're having those conversations where it might be a longer term situation, do you have conversations of like, what are your needs? Like, what are the needs of that person? What does support look like for you? Like, what can I do? Like, do you have those conversations when you're helping people through these, you know, longer term situations?
I'm not sure sometimes that people really know what they need. So I feel like the most beneficial thing that you can do is just be an active listener and then say, you know, what I hear you saying is, would this help you? And then give like an example of something. In my experience, at least, because, you know, if I'm helping my sister through a hard time, she may not even know what she wants. So I think that that's helpful too, being that active listener and asking questions.
I restate a lot. I restate in other examples. Like with my son, I use football all the time because he relates to football. So it might be a school thing, but if I relate it to the way that the coach would say it to him, then he looks at it differently, you know? So the same thing, you know, at work. Well, if you have two people butting heads and I'm like, but if this person said it, would you have reacted the same way? So it's kind of like I use other analogies.
Yeah.
That's my way of keeping the conversation moving away from whatever the issue is, like keep it progressing.
So to switch gears maybe a little bit, I want to know, what do you have a person or a people, or when you need positive energy? Because it's not only the negatives, and I think empathy is also surrounded about this negativity, and I feel the heavy emotions, but it's joy and it's happiness and it's positivity and it's support. So do you have somebody that you're like, I need to call I need to call this person because this person's going to pick me up because they radiate positivity, or they radiate something good for me, and I just need to be around them? And don't say it's a glass of wine, because that's probably inappropriate, but you know what I mean, right? It's like, I need somebody to. Do you have that, or is that something that you could look for, to give you some rooted stability, and to say, I've had an emotional day and I need.
Well, one of the things that I have missed with the COVID is my commute. And I know that sounds weird, but I drive an hour to work and I drive an hour home. And I did not know until I've been sitting from, 8:30 in the morning until 5 at one place at my table, just in Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, how valuable I find that hour on either side of my workday. And it was just quiet. Sometimes no radio, no music, just nothing. Do
you have intellection? Is intellection in your top 5 too, Sharon? Interesting. That's a common thing for people with intellection, is they need time.
Really?
That's actually in mine, and I find that I'm such an introvert. I need time alone, and that's how I recharge, is to be by myself.
So that empathy, that commute for you, that hour to and from, was your decompression from whatever the emotion was.
Absolutely. And I didn't realize how much it was until I didn't have it.
Well, it's probably an opportunity for you to check in on your own emotions and not be picking up on the emotions of others in that moment, because you have that hour to yourself.
Yep.
I call my mom every day on my commute home.
Nice.
And so, I live over by Hy-Vee on Sycamore. So however long that takes me, that's how long we talk every day. Like, I don't know, 10 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
And so that, depending on how my day goes, I may do all of the talking for all of the 10 minutes, and she's okay with that.
Yeah.
If I've had a really good day, sometimes she does all of the talking on the way home. And my son Adam, he is my levity. Like, that boy has one-liners in every pocket of every crevice, and he can throw a one-liner out there, and I'm just like, all is right with the world, man. If it's that easy to spin it, it can't be that bad, So.
Well, I think whatever it is that you use as a decompression routine, whether it's your drive home, or it's, I need to sit down with my son and have dinner, or in all sincerity, if it's a glass of wine for you to decompress, then I think that's important, because people with empathy, they can't, it's raw for them. It's not something that they can really put up a shield around. Other people can turn off. I mean, I can honestly turn off my woo when I need to turn it off. I can sit and be quiet, and it doesn't frustrate me. It's one of those that you can't, because it's a silent one. I'm always feeling whatever the emotion is. And it's so important for people with empathy to create whatever it is, that routine, to say, I'm going to check in with myself, like Brent suggested, or I'm going to decompress because I just need this moment to center myself again. And that could be after, I suppose, an intense meeting where you gave bad news and you're like, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee. And you know what? That Starbucks all the way across town feels like a good place to go. And it's, I could have walked over to the coffee shop right across the way, but no, I feel like a longer drive is worth it. and giving yourself permission to do that is probably really important.
Well, and I think especially now, I know I've found myself, I don't know if you're familiar with the Some Good News. I know it's over now. John Krasinski's not doing it. But I found watching a show like that, that's a lot of positive news, especially in this challenging time where maybe you are feeling a lot of the sad emotions that people are just experiencing around the world due to COVID. That like finding those opportunities of levity that allow you to be in touch with more positive emotions, I think can be really powerful too.
For this month of May, I'm Catholic, and so the month of May is the Rosary month, and I have a favorite priest, and if you tell my current priest that he was my favorite priest, I'll deny it, but he's a previous priest from our church, and he is doing online every day the Rosary, and he has a way of talking before, like you're in the room, like I'm talking to him and he's on a one-way FaceTime thing, like he doesn't hear me, but there's something about his tone, his tone, his delivery that I find calming. And then with the Rosary packed in the middle, that's like 15 minutes of repetition and repeat. And that for me, I didn't realize how helpful that would be in the middle of the day, because in the business office, we don't take breaks. We don't take a 15-minute break in the morning, and we don't take a 15-minute break in the afternoon. If you need to do something, you just do it when you need to do it. Well, you find that you don't do it because you just don't make time to do it.
I certainly find that working from home is much more difficult to take the needed lunch break and the 15 minutes get up and go for a walk break just to go and do that. I find work-life balance at home way more difficult to manage.
And Carol, bless her heart, like she sees that, like we're supposed to go outside and take a picture or take a little video of your feet on the pavement so that she knows that you're not sitting there for 9 hours, that you actually take a lunch and you don't sit at your desk. But even sometimes in the office, we take a lunch and sit at our desk and continue to work. And so for me, this 20 minutes at 3:00 Monday through Friday and 7:00 on Saturday and Sunday nights that he has set this up, and I have decided I'm going to do that. Like, it's really helpful.
Good.
It's like you said, you don't realize that you need that recharge. And I think sometimes I've realized I need it not just when I get home or not just on my drive home. Like, I have to do it. I'm way better from 3:30 to 5. I'll tell you, I get way more done from 3:30 to 5 after you do that.
Right.
But in the beginning, it felt selfish.
Sweet.
I find that
And I think
it happens. I was just going to say chapel. When I used to go to chapel, I didn't make time for it very often. Every time I made time for it, the rest of the day just was so much better. So,
yeah, and a lot of the things that you're talking about are great advice that for people with high empathy, they say you need time at the end of your day to decompress. So that hour drive, that 20 minutes, say in the Rosary, listening to the priest talk and greet you, like all of those things are great examples of just ways to decompress throughout your day, and then allow yourself to be in touch with your emotions and maybe not the emotions of others and all the things and situations that are going on around you.
That's a great way to sum it up, Brent. And we'll wrap this conversation about empathy up, and just let you know that empathy is special and unique. And I appreciate you three for coming and sharing with us. And we post this on our website, on the Strengths Quest website, so others can see it and learn more about us and learn more about each talent. So I'm appreciative for the three of you for coming. And Brent, thanks again, as always, for being my buddy on Strengths on campus. And
Thank you for validating me.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. It's a unique talent. I wish I had more of it. I really do. I often feel like I'm picking up the vibe of the room. But I don't think I feel it in the same way. I think I can sense a vibe and go, oh, okay. And usually it's a lot about me, you know, like, are they appreciative of me? And that's my woo coming out. So, so next week we're on a break because Brent and I are both taking a needed vacation week. So we're not doing a conversation next week, but the week after that, Brent, do we know what we're talking about?
That's a great question.
Well, look for an email and we'll send it out.
Yes,
and
we will
figure
send that
out a way.
I can't remember offhand.
We'll look for a way to message out to everybody because it would be fun to get other people. But it's nice, like we were talking earlier, to get those of you with empathy in the same room to just share that in a private setting. So
maybe you could have on your website where you have them listed, you could have a little thing, contact, Jeff and Kemper Brett, if you want to be on the mailing list to be alerted to them, because I really appreciate talking with other empathy people. That's kind of cool to see who they are. That's pretty fun. But it's probably also fun for those of you who are different strengths to hear empathy people talking.
Well, and I think it's good for coworkers and people to see this and to go, a good example is Sharon and the story she shares about that, to have a coworker who's so aware of her empathy that says, I know she's having a rough conversation right now. As soon as that person leaves, I'm swooping in there with a handful of M&Ms for her so that she can, feel some positivity right afterwards, or to give her a moment, or to say, hey, let's go get a cup of coffee across town, whatever it takes. So, all right. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for coming, and we will see you next time we see you. Okay.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.